Welcome back to the channel and welcome to episode 25. Today we're going to take a look at a camera battle we had back from your visit to Nebraska.
Great! I love these robot battle shows. Those are awesome. I never quite imagined that cameras could do the same thing, but hey, I'm totally game.
Keith, I'm talking about the contest where we swapped cameras and we took photos with each other's camera to see who could take the best one.
Oh yeah. Wait, so you're saying we never filmed an intro for that episode?
No, believe it or not, we jumped right into me using your Sony a6600 and you using my Canon R5.
Oh, okay. So no script or anything. We just jumped right in and improvised the whole thing?
Yep, that's exactly what we did.
Okay. So I'm curious, have you checked it out yet? I mean, how bad is it?
Well, we had some great thoughts while we were actually shooting the photos of the fire hydrant, but we probably needed to check our framing a little bit before we shared our final thoughts following the photo session.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember now. So we picked an object that each of us would photograph using each other's cameras, and I recall now we picked that fire hydrant that was sitting out at the front of your property. It was really cool. It was red, of course, but it had that really neat patina to it, right? That really interesting color.
Exactly. So how about we show the parts where we're taking the photos and doing our composition and then sharing some of our initial thoughts, and then we'll jump back into the studio and we'll share our final thoughts about using each other's cameras.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan. So, to put a little background or context onto this, I'm a longtime Sony camera shooter, and Bruce normally uses Canon brands. And so what we thought we would do is have a little battle, right, to see who could take the best shots using the other camera brand. So it's a little bit of a twist on the earlier episode we did when we filmed in Illinois and did the bokeh battle.
Yeah, we figured what fun it would be for us to use our own cameras again and do the same old photo contest. So we decided to exchange. I would have to use Keith's Sony a6600 and Keith would have to use my Canon EOS R5. Now, the fundamentals of photography are obviously still the same, but there's something about having to pick up a camera you've never used before and figure out how to get it to do what you know how to do on your other camera and get good photos.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Sony and Canon both make excellent cameras, and the cameras that we used are both very, very good cameras. And everything that we wanted to do, everything I wanted to do on the Sony was available on the Canon, but everything's in a different location, and it just puts your mind in a different frame, a different context. You have to hunt for things in different locations, and your creative workflow, the way you think about photographing things, gets kind of disrupted. It's a little bit unnerving.
All right, so what do you say we go ahead and jump into the video, and then I'll put up the photo results that we have and let the audience judge who took the better photos.
Perfect. I was getting a little bit antsy to see how badly I beat you this time.
All right, so I think the goal here is to try and make the fire hydrant maybe look like somewhat artistic.
Yeah, it's got some interesting colors in it too as well, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's oxidized or rusted.
Call it some patina.
Yeah, patina is exactly what it is.
Okay. And just a reminder, neither one of us has used the other one's camera.
Yeah.
And so we're trying out, we're basically making the Canon guy use a Sony.
I'm definitely struggling.
And vice versa. And let's see here, I need to figure out where ISO is. Okay, ISO. I'm already on the base ISO, so of 100s. I almost cheated, Keith. I almost, I can cheat. I can go down. Well, you know what? I'll make it even. I'll use 100 ISO since that's where you're going to be limited to.
I am?
Yeah. Yeah. Oops, you actually bumped it up to 160. I think you're going to. There you go. And then shutter speed is
1/250.
top one. Oh, huh?
This one is shutter speed?
Yeah. Aren't you super bright?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to be in like the over 2,000th of a second, or so. Not to stack the odds.
You're giving me hints.
I know. Well,
Oh,
I figured out. I stumbled across the exposure compensation. I just got to get back to shutter speed. And I don't think that the Sony menus are necessarily hard. I mean, you hear people complain all the time about that, but
I will say, so far with this, I haven't even bothered with the menus, right? I'm in full menu mode, and once I found dial 1 and dial 2,
right,
I can just sort of go by gut feel by what I see.
Yeah, I'm struggling probably a little bit more just from a
You
like
want to hit the function button.
function.
That
Okay.
exposes a
Gotcha.
lot of the
Okay, so
controls that are available to you.
I am looking. I had changed my shutter speed at one point in time. So let's go with center, exposure comp, ISO. Okay, now I'm getting it a little bit better. Flash mode, white balance, shoot mode, drive mode. So, okay, now I found shutter speed a little bit. This is interesting because I thought you had a faster shutter than one. So it's like it lets me get so far and then it stops on the. See, I'm at 1/4000th of a second. I thought I could go maybe a little bit faster, like 1/8000th. That's where you're going to be limited, is 1/8000th of a second.
Let me try 1/8000th of a second. It doesn't look good at 1/8000th.
It doesn't? What?
Oh, never mind. I have to. If I change the exposure compensation, it gets better. This sunlight is very harsh.
Yes, that we definitely did not do ourselves any favor
Yeah.
from that perspective.
I'm gonna try full auto, see what it does, what settings it picks.
Yeah, I will tell you, it's probably as frustrating for you coming from a Sony going to a Canon as it is for me going from a Canon to a Sony. Just not because one is hard, but because they're different.
Yeah, whatever you get used to.
They're very different in terms of how they want you to approach changing settings. See, I'm significantly overexposed right now. And I'm kind of cheating because it's at, well, I guess you could do the same if you wanted. I'm at f2.2 because this is where it defaulted to.
Yeah, it's hard to control exactly everything that you want, depending on what mode you're in.
I just feel like the Sony keeps trying to help me even if I'm not asking for help.
I find like I'm getting good pictures. I feel like I am, but I'm really trusting the LCD and the viewfinder. But with the super harsh sun, I can't really see the viewfinder all that well.
Oh, I've got your shadow. No, I don't have your shadow.
It's your own shadow.
No, it's not my shadow. It's actually the fire hydrant shadow.
Yeah.
I had to Photoshop these, or Lightroom them, in order to adjust the lighting the way I want it. So I think I'm limited to 1/4000th of a second with this particular unit. So that's going to give you a bit of an advantage. Now, I guess I could cheat and lower my ISO, like kind of a compensation. A lot of times I'm shooting with a zoom lens versus a prime.
Excuses.
Well, I was just going to explain that we've chosen a 50mm prime because that's a 1.8. Did you want that screen open like that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Of course not. I do.
Well, if one thing, we're trying to take a fairly, common, mundane object and photograph it in, maybe a little bit more interesting fashion. Let's see if I can get here without interrupting your
Oh, it
photo.
shaded my eyes.
Oh, uh-oh. I don't want to.
Oh, now that you do that, that's interesting that this happened. Once you shaded my eyes,
Yeah. You can see it.
I totally changed my mind what settings I needed. My eyes,
Yeah.
Because what I was seeing is what I was basing my decisions off of.
And I'm used to having a the focal point. Yeah, I see you taking full advantage of the articulating screen to get maybe some angles that you wouldn't be able to see otherwise, just trying to lay down or whatever on the ground. And now that I'm trying to do the same thing, I can see what you were fighting.
Well, and that one's much better than the A6000, mind you. My old A6000 did have an articulating screen. It's just, it had a much more severe limit to its range of tilt.
All right. So what do you think?
Yeah. Well,
You ready to call the photos of the fire hydrant a wrap?
Yep.
All right. Well, let me turn off your camera for you. And I'll dig out your lens cap from my pocket.
I will say that I like the feel. It feels very robust, solid, stable, like the whole chassis is built out of granite.
Yeah.
And the grip feels nice in my hand. Heavy.
Yeah, it's got. I mean,
Very heavy
It can be a
compared to
good
the
and a
Sony.
bad thing, right? That you're dealing with a camera that has some bulk to it. It gives a good, comfortable feeling in the hand. But if you're used to working with a lighter camera, from a size and ergonomics perspective, for maybe shooting for a long period of time, it would probably wear on you a little bit until you got used to it. Because it's definitely. I mean, it
Yeah.
looks like it's not going to be that heavy
Yeah.
until you hold it, and then it definitely has some chunk to it.
Whereas this thing is, I wouldn't say it's light as a feather, but
No,
the
but it's-
A6600 is light
It's very light.
and small.
Yeah.
And the thing I like about the 6600 versus the A6000 and other of the Alpha 6 series, the battery grip, chunky.
Yeah,
So you get the
they
best of
increased
both
that battery
worlds.
size.
Yeah.
And when they did, they obviously, it wasn't just a capacity issue, it was the physical size of the battery got larger,
Yeah.
and obviously the grip had to grow in order to accommodate that.
Yeah. Which I love the extra battery life, but I love the feel. All right,
Well, excellent.
let's see what we got.
Sounds good. So I'm going to start with my thoughts first. Keith, I'm going to hand you the Adaptability Award here. So to me, it just seemed like when I handed you the R5, not that you didn't, have to look around and hunt for things a little bit, but it just seemed like you took to the camera maybe a little bit faster than I took to the A6600. Now, whether that's, your adaptability or the camera being a little bit easier, I'm not sure where to place the credit, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt here.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I as I kind of recall, my strategy was to just start with the auto capabilities, where it picks the shutter speed and the frame rates for you and everything, just to see what the camera would do. And then I did set it to manual and kind of picked similar things and goofed around from there. So that was sort of my strategy. Maybe that kind of helped me. But, my thoughts of the R5, it was amazing how my initial impression was, wow, this thing is got some heft to it, right? I was used to the A6600 and the A6000 are both lighter, right? But it wasn't like bad. It wasn't like, whoa, there's a lot of junk in this trunk. It was like, this is solid, right? I felt it had some heft to it, and the feel in my hand was bulky in a good way, right? That's one of the things I loved about going from the A6000 to the A6600 is it's got a bigger battery grip and a bigger battery, and that made a lot of difference for me, and I felt the kind of, in a good way, and I felt the same kind of feeling when I grabbed the R5, like, ooh, yeah, it's a little bit heavier, but I can grab it, right? And somehow intuitively I liked that. And I think my other thoughts about it, as I'm just recalling, is I hated how bright the sun was. And I think we didn't realize until like halfway through our shoot, or at least I didn't, that I'm probably not evaluating the colors properly. There was so much direct sun in my eyes. My pupils were probably like 1 nanometer in diameter. I was kind of relying on the color view from the screen. I wasn't using the viewfinder with my eye. I was just looking at the screen. And I shouldn't have been trusting my own eyeballs because it was too bright for me to that frustrated the hell out of me. But that had nothing to do with the cameras at all, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with you on the size. I mean, when I picked up the A6600, it's a very light camera, especially going from my point of view, the R5 to the A6600, significantly lighter. It is heavier than the A6000, but I will say I'll echo your thoughts in terms of a chunkier feel and that bigger grip. I really think helps the A6600 over the 6000. Just gives you a little bit more to hold on to. Even with my small hands on the 6600, I could, I fit on that versus the 6000. I just felt like it wasn't a good feel, and I have small hands, so I can only imagine someone with big hands trying to use that smaller camera. I will have to say, and maybe it's because I am so used to it, from a size, ergonomics, and that perspective, I still do prefer the Canon R5. But I think the experience that I had with the 6600 was better than I was thinking it would be going in. You kind of see some of the fanboys of both camera systems out there, and it's hard for them to admit that there's something they like about the other brand camera. You and I think, have been much more realistic, but we also have been forced to work with each other's technology, even if it's been ancillary, in nature and working with it. We really have had to appreciate what the other camera systems have been able to do, and then utilize that, because we do film our episodes on those two different camera solutions.
Yeah, and the other thing I think I appreciated as I'm recalling this is I really like the way the Canon set up the additional kind of analog dials compared to what I'm used to on the Sony for changing the exposure triangle, right? Whether you're changing the ISO setting or the f-stop or whatever. I found myself actually using those more than I thought I would, I guess. It was very good to be able to access those kind of analog dials. I only have one on the Sony, and you don't really get to, depending on what mode you're shooting in, the function of that one dial you have changes. So I appreciated that.
Well, regardless of who the audience ultimately says won this contest, I have to say it was a fun exercise. First, we had to find a way to make the fire hydrant an interesting subject, and then two, we had to do so with a different camera.
Yeah, I agree. It's good to be pushed out of your comfort zone a little bit, right? That in and of itself makes it fun. Of course, hanging out with you it's always fun, right? When we get to hang out together, and to explore new ways for me to beat you at something. That's always fun too.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. Wait a minute. You snuck another one in there. So I think this is the perfect time to end our episode.
Thanks everyone for joining us, and since you're still here, go ahead and hit that like button. You know you want to.
And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of the action of Keith thinking he's won something again.
And lastly, don't forget to click on the bell so that you'll get notified the next time I win. The next time we have an episode of Dad's Talk Tech, where you will see us next time. Thanks everybody.